Today I want to talk about Xbox Series X and Unreal Engine 5 because despite early concerns, looks like these Unreal Engine 5 games keeps getting better and better. Let's look into this. But before we look into it, let's check in iba.com. They offer games for Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo and PC, and as always they've got a ton of games on sale, like Black Friday deals for example, so let's check them out. And there's a ton of games over here, good prices too. So how about Final Fantasy VII Remake? Not a bad price too, so let's click on it. Obviously we can buy it or add some more games to the cart, no problem there. So let's actually go with this one. So that's the cheapest option over here, and you've got some cashback over here too for $4 because that's the promotion there too. And all you have to do is just proceed to checkout and select a payment of your choice and you are done. So guys, in iba.com you will find the link in the description to this website below. Okay guys, so let's talk about these Unreal Engine 5 games. Next generation game engine. Yes, people were, including myself, were super excited about this game engine at first, like basically before the new generation started, because Unreal Engine 5 demos were very impressive. I'm sure you remember the very first demos that ran on PlayStation 5. Then they showed that Matrix demo, which we actually can play as well. I mean, you cannot actually download it anymore, but I've got it downloaded, so I guess, you know, those of you that still have it can play it. So these are very impressive demos indeed. But what about the games? We were all waiting for the games, and unfortunately when the first games arrived, well, things were not that pretty really. So I think, I guess the very first game that ran on Unreal Engine 5 was Fortnite. But, you know, it's a bit different thing with Fortnite because Fortnite is a first-party Epic game, right? So they know the engine and they actually really did a good advantage of it, took advantage of it. And yeah, I mean, Fortnite looks and runs great on pretty much all platforms, right? It's very well optimized and so they had time to optimize it. They know how, you know, this game engine works. So, and it shows. But then we started getting these first games, like, for example, Immortals of Avium and Remnant. I think there was Layers of Fear too. But unfortunately, not all of them were that greatly optimized because, you know, let's face it, Immortals of Avium, yes, it was 60 frames per second. That's fine. So I guess all that talk about Unreal Engine 5 being optimized for these consoles when it comes to delivering 60 frames per second was true. But at the same time, unfortunately, something always has to give, and that was unfortunately image quality, so resolution, right? I mean, the game looks really, really good. Even to this day. I mean, it's not really that old of a title, but yeah, I mean, you know, resolution was actually quite low on pretty much all consoles. Xbox Series S was obviously the worst one, as always. But even on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, you know, the resolution wasn't really that great, right? And obviously there was some frame rate drops too. Actually, Immortals of Avium actually runs better on Xbox than PlayStation. I guess it just kind of shows that, you know, Xbox is actually pretty well suited for, you know, these next-gen engines really. And this is not the first title to actually show recently. But yeah, Immortals of Avium was a kind of a mixed bag. Remnant 2 was that too, because even though the game actually delivers pretty nice visuals, pretty good quality, image quality, in 60 frames per second mode, I think it offers some other modes too, like 30. I may be wrong on that. But at the same time, you know, when you reached some more graphically demanding levels, you know, the game would drop frames like big time, sometimes down to like 45 frames per second, right? So, so I guess like I guess with these games, it was more about a game developer still figuring out how to use these game engines. B, well, they were using very early versions of Unreal Engine. So, for example, Immortals of Avium, we know that they were using 5.1 version, which wasn't really that great optimized for these consoles and like any other platform in general. Now Unreal is on Unreal Engine 5.3, so that's like another major like they are really 2 major releases behind, and that's a lot. That means a lot, especially at the very beginning of the life cycle of the game engine. I guess we could actually drop First Descendant to the same bag of a game that runs kind of okay, like 60 frames per second for the most part, but the image quality is actually just decent, right? But I would not be surprised if that game was just like not greatly optimized and still using the early version of Unreal Engine 5. But then actually something interesting happened, because I guess we got Lords of the Fallen, and this is the problem with Lords of the Fallen, because at times this game is just great, and I actually played that game for like a couple of hours. I'm not really great, when it comes to these games. So I actually had some issues with buzz battles and that kind of stuff. So, I've spent like maybe 4 hours with this title, and I haven't had any major issues for the most part. Yes, the textures were popping, and some other stuff were going on here and there, but for the most part it was 60, not stable, but still. And that was a while ago. The game received a number of updates, but obviously, Digital Foundry made a proper kind of test of this game, and the game would crash or would like basically stop working, like 1 frame per second kind of situation we're talking about here. So genuinely speaking, there's a promise there, because the game looks really, really good when it works, and when it's like console rebooted and everything, then it works pretty well too. So I guess this is one of the titles that still needs more work, but when it works, and it actually works pretty well. And I think that it's one of the titles that once they put extra work into it, it's going to be a nice showcase of Unreal Engine 5, really. But then we got we got Josant, another kind of small title, but still a nice kind of game. 4K, nice graphics and everything, but it's an indie title, so I guess it's not really an Unreal Engine 5 kind of showpiece. But then we got RoboCop, right? And RoboCop is actually kind of cool, because it's using all these kind of nanite, lumen, and in Niagara, I think, technologies. I'll probably talk about these technologies later on, too, probably in a separate video, because there's a few interesting things going on there. And like RoboCop, I think it's actually one of the best when it comes to both visuals, performance, and overall stability of the game, right? It has its issues, don't get me wrong, especially on PlayStation, when it comes to like performance in like more open spaces. Like Xbox actually holds their frame rate better, but at the same time, apparently some textures are missing on Xbox. So that game still needs some extra work. But it's these type of games like RoboCop, for the most part, shows a good promise when it comes to Unreal Engine 5 games in the future. There's also Stray Souls. That's Unreal Engine 5 game too, indie title, kind of cool game really, but it's 60, but well, depends on where you are, because when you reach the more open area where you've got like a lot of vegetation and that kind of stuff, well, the frame rate is not great. It's like 55 frames per second apparently, but you know, it's I mean, for the most part it's 62, right? Like in more like close environment kind of situations, so it's not really that bad, and it's an indie title too. So what I'm trying to say here is that, yeah, despite the very early concerns, these Unreal Engine 5 games are actually getting better and better, and that's for really two reasons. One, developers are getting used to the tools and everything, and B, well, the engine is actually getting better too, because developers are actually developing games. They are submitting feedback to Epic. Epic is fixing bugs and, you know, optimizing performance and that kind of stuff. They've got more, you know, data to work with when it comes to optimization, and yeah, and that shows, like especially in Robocop. And what's great about Robocop is that the fact that it's actually one of the better looking games out there when it comes on Unreal Engine 5, and B, it has been made by a small team of people. Like, it's a Polish developer actually. And yeah, I mean, they are not like one of the biggest, and you know, they've made really a kind of a good game. Not only good game in the sense of gameplay, because apparently, you know, Robocop is actually a very good game, but you know, technically speaking, there's nothing to complain about there neither. So I guess with some, you know, a patch or two and these small bug fixes here and there, you know, it's going to be great. And you know, I guess same can be said about, like, I guess Remnant, which, you know, shows a lot of promise. Lords of the Fallen, I know I will die on a hill. I still think that this is actually one of the more kind of demanding and prettier games when it comes to Unreal Engine 5, and you know, that game actually does some cool things with graphics. First Descendants looks okay too, and obviously Robocop. Actually, Immortals of Avium, this is an interesting thing, and I've heard that apparently they are going to be upgrading from Unreal Engine 5.1 to 5.3, so I'm actually looking forward to it, so we'll see how that goes. But guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm more hopeful when it comes to Unreal Engine 5 games now. So I was a bit of a downer recently on Unreal Engine 5 technology and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it doesn't really looking that bad, to be honest with you. So guys, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.